It's me, Hamal, your science teacher. I'm going to teach you grade 9 science. Today's topic is natural hazards. Or simply said, let's say the hazards or disaster. Okay, well, I would like to welcome you in the class first of all. So, thank you. And just to have a look some of the hazards on the screen. Then after we will go to define what are the hazards means. Okay, so in the first picture you will see the flood. Then after you will see the bomb threat. So it's the bombing of the city. The third one at the right hand side is the landslide. The landslide damaged the roads and crushed the bridge. It's hampering the transportation. And the second row, the first picture is avalanche. Avalanche. The slides of the snow from the Himalaya. The bushfire, the middle one. And the second row, the last picture is about the cyclone. And the first picture in the third row is about the ocean shore, the flood. And the middle picture is desertification, a lack of the water. The last picture is about the volcanic eruption. So these are the disasters or hazards. And they may cause the loss of the life and loss of the properties, and not beneficial, very harmful. So have a look next one. So what is hazard? So let's talk about something about hazard. So hazard is also known as the disaster, anything that happens at a wrong time, at a wrong place, that causes the threat to human beings, animals, and may cause the loss of the property is known as hazard. So have a look the proper definition. A natural or man-made situation that causes threat to lives and properties in environment is called hazard or disaster. A hazard occurs unfortunately at a wrong place at a wrong time. This is not fortunate thing, this is unfortunate thing that happens at a wrong place at a wrong time. Hazards are detrimental because they may take lives and properties. They are not beneficial, they are disadvantageous because they take lives and properties. Some examples of the hazards in the flood, landslides, earthquake, volcano, road accident, airplane crashes, bomb explosion, epidemics, etc. So have a look on the board. I'll be explaining one by one to some extent. Nepal is very popular a country knowing famous for natural hazards, especially landslides and floods, avalanche, etc., even road accidents. Well, landslides, the falling of the land because of the gravity, especially in steepy places, is known as the landslides. Landslides causes the road blockage as well as it's converted the fertile land in the infertile land. It decreases the fertility of the land. So landslides is very common in Nepal, especially during the rainy season, during monsoon. Also, there are some of the landslides, they are called dry landslides. They occur though there is no rain, but they also occur if there is no rain. Such a landslides are known as dry landslides. Dry landslides. The flood, overflow of the water, that of the river or that of the ocean, or whatever the water body is, that's called landslides. Landslides causes submerging the ocean, beach or coastal areas as well as the bank of the river or at the bank of the lakes. Earthquakes, the shaking of the earth that causes destruction of the landscapes and the infrastructures, including the buildings, the roads, the lands, as well as the bridges. Okay, next, volcano. The volcanic eruption or volcano is sudden explosion of the Earth's crust, expelling the magma out from the mantle. That's the volcano. The volcano is not that popular in our country, but it's very popular in Philippines, New Zealand, Japan, Italy, United States of America. Okay. Road accidents. So Nepal is very popular for road accidents because of very poor traffic rules and regulations and very narrow and steepy and hilly roads. It's a lot of buses, cars and trucks, they get collided and they sometimes fall into the deep valley and may kill a lot of people. The road accidents, okay, accidents by colliding or falling the vehicles down into the valley or in the river. That the examples of road accidents. Airplane crashes. So we hear the news time and again, crashing of the airplanes around the world. It's a lot of airplanes, they get crashed with the tower or they miss the rudder system and so they may get plunged into the ocean or maybe collided another airplanes or miss landing or cross landing, and so may cause the death of a lot of crews and passengers. So epidemics, probably it is new to you, epidemics. Epidemics means outbreak of some of the infectious disease such as cholera, typhoid, or even coronavirus disease, COVID-19. These are some examples of the epidemics. Sudden outbreak of the disease that causes the emergency and may cause the death of a lot of people and may take the lives and may cause the destruction of the properties. So the epidemics is also an example of hazard. So basically we talked about the hazard here, but the hazards, they are of two types, natural hazards and man-made hazards. Landslides is natural, sometimes it can be man-made as well, because when they dig the earth and they may cause the landslides. And flood, obviously natural, earthquake natural, volcano natural, road accidents, it's basically artificial or man-made. Airplane crashes, it's man-made. Epidemics, it can be natural or man-made. Sometimes it spreads itself naturally, and sometimes the human being transmits the diseases. So epidemics can be natural or can be man-made. Sometimes the epidemics get spreaded because of human beings, and they intentionally spread from a country to another country. So you can say disaster, or we can say the hazards. Hazards are natural or man-made. It's a situation that causes a threat to lives and properties in the environment. A hazard occurs unfortunately to a wrong place at a wrong time, and a lot of people killed and properties get lost. So it's not good, it's very bad for everyone. Not only for living beings, including human beings, but also it's not good for the nature. It destroys the nature environment, the landscapes. Okay, good. The hazards are of two types, natural hazards, man-made hazards. So any hazards or disasters, they occur naturally. Such hazards are called natural hazards, such as volcano, earthquake, flood, landslides, etc. And man-made, so some of the disasters or hazards, they occur because of human beings, such as road accidents. Road accidents. Airplane crashes. Airplane crashes. Epidemics means spreading disease like COVID-19. Train accidents and explosion of bomb explosion. These are the artificial or man-made hazards. So hazards broadly classified into two. So number one, natural hazards. Number two, man-made hazards. Natural hazards, they occur naturally. such as volcano, earthquake, floods, landslides. Man-made, such as road accidents, airplane crashes, epidemics, so etc. So have a look on the screen. There are some of the examples of the hazards. Number 1, flood, a landslide, earthquake, volcano, road accident, airplane crashes, bomb explosion, epidemics, and many more. So have a look at the picture. It's a landslide, a huge, massive landslide just blocked the road. Maybe a lot of vehicles buried into it. It takes months of time to clear that. Landslides, the first picture shows the landslides that just blocked the road, and another landslides, the landslides is continuous and making the houses falling down into the deep valley. Probably there should be a river down there, I guess. Okay, so it's a danger. Still, the people living there, so they are at a very high risk, and they're threatened. They are threatened by the landslides, the natural hazards. Next one, the floods. So the first one, it's a big flood. The houses and temples, that sort of things, the infrastructures, the field covered by the water. The second picture, it looks very funny. Actually, the house is on the lands, but when the water has flooded, and it looks like the house is at the middle of the lake or middle of the ocean, and the man is boating. So very interesting. So flood, a city is totally going to submerge into the water. So I think there should be obviously a situation of emergency, and they need to be rescued ASAP. So you can have a look. The motorboats that are there, I think they should be the rescue team, and they're going to rescue the people living there. And there should be some sort of emergency, for example, electric shock and firing, or some submerging, and especially the young ones and the elderly people may sink in the water and may be killed. That's why they need to be rescued as soon as possible. Next one, earthquake. So we still remember the big quake of Nepal, 2072. So we collapsed our PABSON tower in Kathmandu, and the picture from the right should be from the Nepal. Okay, so it looks like, so it's the huge buildings, they are going to collapse, and the picture at the left, the road is collapsed and crumbled and sinking down because of earthquake, shaking the earth. So volcanoes, the volcanic eruption, where there is thin layer of crust of the earth and the very active magma inside the earth from the mantle may escape out through the vent, the opening where there is very narrow crust, and that may cause the expelling of hot magma, just like bomb blasting, and may cause jungle fire or fire in the city. That's a volcanoes. It's very horrible. It's very emergency situation if it unfortunately occurs in the middle of the town or city. Next, artificial. It's a plane crash or airplane crash. A huge Boeing has crashed there, and obviously it's burned and should be the death of a lot of people, I'm very sure. So look at that. That's a massive one, huge one. And next, train accident. So here is a train, looks like a very high express train, and having a lot of compartments, has been collided or it's off track, and its compartments, the parts has been crumbled. The track, the railway track, is smashed. Yeah, it looks like very horrible, and a lot of rescue teams are working if someone is still alive. So it's a disaster. So train accident is man-made or artificial disaster. So bomb attacks, so you must think about that, or you must know about that. These are the Twin Towers in the United States of America. So a terrorist attack made a few years ago in Twin Towers. The aeroplane crashed, and the Twin Towers set fire and put the Twin Towers one after another, get collapsed into the ashes, and a lot of people killed. And it was the biggest bomb attack in United States America by some terrorists. Okay, so this is also an example of a hazard. So it's a bomb attack or bomb explosion. It's an artificial disaster. So let's talk about types of hazards again. So pretty much explain about that. So the various hazards are broadly classified into two types based on whether they occur naturally or not, namely natural hazards and man-made hazards, and they are also known as artificial hazards. Natural hazards, the hazards which occur in nature due to some natural process are called natural hazards. Examples: flood, landslides, earthquake, volcano, etc. Man-made hazards, the hazards which occur as a result of human activities are called man-made hazards or artificial hazards. Example: road accident, bomb explosion. Epidemics means spreading some infectious disease like the cholera or COVID-19. Outburst of dams, sometimes the dams get outburst. Suddenly it explodes and a lot of water comes out as a flood and may sweep the human settlement and lives, so may cause the destruction of infrastructures. Likewise, airplane crash, desertification because of some human activities like over mining and deforestation. They may cause the conversion of the land, fertile land, into desert. Such a phenomenon is known as desertification. The conversion of good land in the desert is called desertification. Is an example of man-made hazards if it is caused because of human being, but it may be natural as well if it happened because of nature. Types of hazards, again, the hazards can be categorized as physical hazard or chemical hazard or biological hazards. What does it mean? So it means that the condition or situation that can cause the physical harm are called physical hazards. For example, direct killing or destruction of infrastructures. These are called physical hazards. Some physical phenomenon that occurs, for example, earthquake, so a flood, accident, for example, application of the force or application of some sort of vibrations or some sort of pressure. If the hazard is occurred because of some physical phenomenon, these hazards are called the physical hazards. Example: earthquake, flood, accident, airplane crashes, etc. So next, chemical hazards. So if the hazards or threat is because of chemicals, for example, acid attack or insecticides, use of insecticides, and use of harmful gases, toxic gases released from the industry or laboratory. So these are the chemical hazards. So what do you mean of biological hazards? Hazards caused because of some microorganisms, living microorganisms. Okay, for example, bacteria or virus. Okay, these are some examples of biological hazards. For example, the bacteria, the fungi, foreign toxins, viruses, etc. COVID-19 is an example of biological hazard. Likewise, cholera is an example of biological hazards. Okay, that sort of things. Okay, so management of natural hazards. Let me talk about management of natural hazards or artificial hazards, whatever it is. Okay, so have a look. So disaster or the hazard, it happens unfortunately. It happens unfortunately. It is bad luck to anybody or anyone if it happens somewhere, because it happens unfortunately. Basically, the natural hazards, we cannot stop them. For example, volcanoes, earthquake, we cannot stop them, but we can minimize the risk or the damage caused by them. Such things that we implement or do so that we experience less loss, or the loss or damage is minimized. And such activities are known as disaster management. disaster management are the managerial activities. Because of that, we experience or we encounter with the minimum loss. Okay, remember one more thing. We cannot stop natural hazards or natural disaster. It happens, yes, it happens. Definitely it happens. But if we follow or if we practice a good management, we can minimize the damage or loss caused by it. We can minimize, and we can save the lives of our people, and we can save the properties or our infrastructures as well as wildlife. Okay, so management can be the before, during, and after the disaster. So it's not the matter of literature. It's not only the matter of theory. It's a totally practice or practical. So if we are aware about that, we understand the time and nature of the disaster, then we can minimize the loss caused by it. So have a look. So management of natural hazards on the screen, generating public awareness to stay alert to natural disasters. For example, what to do when there is flood. When there is flood, for example, in Narayani River, at what time it gets flooded? Obviously during the monsoon, so no one is allowed to stay at the bank of the Narayani River. So what is the time of landslide in the Mughling Narayan Ghat road? So during the monsoon season, obviously, so drivers are asked to be very alert while driving on that season. It's in there. Okay, so conducting immediate rescue activities for the disaster affected people. So government or local council or municipality or metro city should prepare a team of manpower to rescue the people where there is a disaster. For example, someone trapped in landslides, or someone trapped because of the flood, or someone got trapped inside a house because of earthquake. So there should be some sort of rescue operation. Because of that, we need to manage a rescue team on time. Managing physical and financial support for affected people. So physical means, for example, the food to feed them and house to live them, the transport, means of transport to transport them to a hospital and back to home, and to make the house for them to live, though it is temporary. And financial support means money. They need money for clothing, food and feeding, medical treatment, etc. Mobilization of various welfare organizations to provide support to the affected people. Okay, support by providing money, support by providing foods, support by providing clothes, and many more. Following various precautions and preventive measures for natural hazards may cause the minimum loss. For example, what to do if there is flood, what to do if there is earthquake, what to do if there is the landslides. So you need to do your best so that you may not lose your property, your life, and lives of your loved ones. So you need to follow various precautions and preventive measures that should be prepared by a very high class, very experienced government body. The Natural Hazard Management Ministry should be established separately, as far as I know, as far as I'm concerned. Next on, management of man-made hazards. So there are some of the man-made hazards, for example, mass killing. So I heard a couple of news in America, one of the schoolboy killed his teacher and some of the students nearby her. And yeah, that's what it happens. Bomb threatening or bomb blasting. Likewise, road accident, airplane crashes, etc. So the man-made hazards are caused because of human beings. If we give them a public awareness or training, and there will be minimization of the man-made hazards. Like, let's talk about some of the points. How can we manage the man-made hazards? Generating public awareness against man-made hazards. For example, what is bomb threat? What causes bomb threat? what is mass killing, and is it good for to make mass killing somewhere? No. So we should do some sort of awareness to the students, to the public. Okay, schooling should be very positive, so there won't be any like mass killing or bomb attack. Maintaining environmental sanitation so that no infectious disease get spread like malaria, cholera, or COVID-19. So spreading awareness regarding epidemics, that sort of things. Epidemics means the outbreak of the infectious disease like COVID-19. So we should keep the awareness so that people will be aware and they will break the chain of transmission. Conducting afforestation programs and discouraging deforestation that causes the minimum landslides or flood, etc. Keeping natural resources pollution free, okay, that makes us healthy. So following traffic rules to minimize road accidents. If we do not follow the traffic rules, we may lead a lot of road accidents. Discouraging forest fire. Forest fire is a sort of man-made hazards that kills a lot of people, even human beings, and may cause the loss of properties. If we discourage forest fire, then after we will save the lives of animals, human beings, and we save the properties too. Arranging proper treatment for victimized and disease-affected people, that obviously causes the minimum loss and good for the people, humanity, human welfare, that's good. Disaster management cycle. Okay, so disaster management cycle so it's a cycle just like a wheel of a bicycle. So how to cope with the disaster? How do we manage the disaster? Though they occur naturally, they are unavoidable, we cannot avoid them, but we can manage them so that they cause very less loss. For example, in Japan, they make very light houses, and the earthquake is very frequent in Japan, so sometimes the house is upside down, still the people safe inside of it. So that's a management. Okay, so if there is risk of very high earthquake, so better to make a very light house. So if there is like risk of flood, better to afforest that area and asking the people to leave that area, away from that area, so that they will be safe. Disaster management, actually disaster has got 3 phases. So pre, during, post. Pre-disaster. During disaster activity or activities, you can write in plural form. Post-disaster activities. Okay, cool. So disaster management should be in a cycle. So what to do before the disaster, what to do during the disaster. During the disaster, it's a very emergency and difficult situation in what to do, and then after the disaster, what to do. So the process number 1, number 2, and number 3, they go in a cycle. So this is called disaster management cycle. A disaster is managed in 3 different phases in a cyclic order. This is called disaster management cycle. In a disaster management cycle, there are 3 phases: pre-disaster activities, during disaster activities, and post-disaster activities. So number 1, it goes, then after number 2, and goes number 3, then after it goes number 1. So pre means before. What to do before the disaster? What to do? We need to think about what to do if there would be the disaster. Okay, so for example, management of financial thing, strengthening the infrastructure, management of emergency bag, where you put the foods and medicines, the things that you need immediately. Okay, for example, so teaching your children, minors, what to do if there is earthquake, what to do if there is fire. or what to do if there is bomb threat. So where is the place of evacuation? What is the procedures of evacuation? Means where to go in the safe place? That sort of things we need to teach. We need to give the trainings to the people. These are called pre-disaster activities. So it's a preparation time. During the disaster activities, so during the disaster it's very emergency, very difficult, panic, and kind of very hustle and bustle time, and nobody can think about that what is going on and how many people killed, and still you need to be very calm down, and you need to listen the directions, you need to listen the message, so whatever the made announcement from outside by using the mic, so you need to do according to that. Sometimes if we don't listen the proper advice or proper the announcement made from outside, and we may trap somewhere, we may lead a terrible accident. So that's why we need to calm down and listen, and should do according to the announcement made. Or during that disaster time, you need to best use your brain from your experience, what you have taught and what you have learned, to be prepared for the hazards during the time of disaster. Post-disaster management, after the disaster, a lot of people killed, a lot of people injured, a lot of people sick, a lot of people mutilated, no hands and no legs, the face damaged, and they cannot walk, they're handicapped, and they don't have food to eat, they don't have place to sleep and live, and they miss their loved ones and family, and they become orphans. That's a terrible situation everyone experience after the disaster. And post-disaster activities is about rescue of the people and rehabilitation of these people. So to make the homeless people, making with the home and love and affection. So have a look on the screen. We are going to terminate the class very soon. The various managerial activities that are adopted before, during, and after the disaster is termed as disaster management cycle. It is the process what to do before, during, and after the disaster. What to do before, during, and after the disaster. Number one, activities before disaster or pre-disaster activities, activities during a disaster or post or disaster occurrence activities, activities after disaster or post-disaster activities. What to do before disaster, during disaster, and after disaster. Pre-disaster activities, the activities that are carried out before the disaster to minimize the loss of lives and properties are called pre-disaster activities. It includes generating awareness, preparation of disaster management plans, strengthening existing weak structure. For example, if the house is not strong, you need to make it strong. Organizing an emergency bag that contains very necessary things, including the medicines. That's called an emergency bag. Need to organize at home. Evacuation procedures. What are evacuation procedures? What to do if there is fire? So which door to be used, which door to be closed, and what to do and what not to do, in what number you need to phone. Okay, you need to know all these things. These activities are called prevention or mitigating activities. During disaster activities, what to do during the disaster. So during the disaster, you should take precautions so that there is minimum loss, and you need to assist and support the victim if you can. But if you cannot, you don't have to do. If you want to help to someone else, make sure you are safe. Okay? If you are not safe, you don't have to do that. And post-disaster activities, the activities that include recovery and rehabilitation of affected communities immediately after disaster occur are called post-disaster activities. It includes rescue of the victims, treatment of affected people, distributing food to needy and affected people, and finally the management of shelter and clothing. They are homeless, they don't have clothes. Okay, that's all for today. We'll be talking about GLOF, glacial outburst, glacial lake outburst flood, and cyclone tomorrow. So your homework is reading homework. I just like to terminate my class today. Have a good day today. See you tomorrow. Bye.